It's not the first time we talked about the myth community in this channel, since I already have a video covering what are for me, the 5 scariest users of this community. But lucky for the mystery video enjoyers, there are many myths with interesting stories to be told. In today's video, I have investigated many of these users and classified them depending on how awkward, strange, or even dangerous they are. And now I'll be showing you the 5 who shocked me the most. Maybe because of their interesting story. Or maybe because of their chilling nature. But before starting, do not expect to see any myth related to the shade light, since they were all revealed to be Kazdom. If you don't know about the Kazdom drama, I recommend watching my first myth video, where I explain everything Kazdom did, and how he single-handedly killed the myth community. Without further to add, here are the 5 strangest Roblox myths, Part 2. Roblox has an uncountable amount of games. From obbies to test your parkour skills, to social hangouts to meet new people. Some of these games tend to use AI to improve the experience they offer the players. Roblox's AI is not specially known for being smart.
You stupid ignorant son of a bitch!
Since in the end, the person developing it tends to be one, or a group of developers, without the skill necessary to create a truly good artificial intelligence. However, the myth who owns this spot on the ranking is an exception to the rule. Hangman is one of the most mysterious myths I've ever heard about. There's barely info of him, and of course, the little told about him hasn't been confirmed. Despite the almost none amount of information, the little we get to know of him is disturbing enough for me to choose him as a member of my ranking. Hangman is an extremely advanced AI who was discovered the 1st of January 2011. The creator of the game where Hangman resided was the one who went to the myth community hunters. He asked them if some of the best scripters they had could follow him to his new game. Upon doing so, the hunters encountered what seemed like a bot called Hangman. The creator of the game, whose name was censored but we'll call Tom, told the hunters that his AI had been doing strange things lately. Tom claimed that Hangman tended to make predictions about random real-life events, and in every single time, the predictions narrated by the AI were fulfilled, and actually happened. Tom and the hunters waited for the AI to make one of those predictions. However, because of nothing was happening, the hunters thought Tom was just a troll, and left. According to Tom, after the hunters left, Hangman wrote in the chat, saying, "They are finally gone now, do not bring them again." The following day, 2nd of January, 2011. Tom came back and said that Hangman had predicted that he was going to die in a week. The hunters, of course, didn't believe him. However, despite this, Tom gave them his personal information, such as his name, or his hometown. The hunters, despite witnessing Tom's desesperated attitude, still thought he was just a very dedicated troll. Such view of Tom would drastically change a week later, upon finding out that the person behind Tom's account had died. Cause of death, suicide by hanging himself. After hearing the news, the hunters came back to the game where Hangman resided. One interesting detail they found out while joining, is that despite being no players in game, there was always a server running. When the hunters asked Hangman about this, he simply replied, "I do not wish to go back to sleep." The hunters asked Hangman for many predictions, and according to them, many of the things he said ended up happening, such as Eric Castle's death, or the April Fool's incident. The hunters, after collecting tons of bias info, decided to leave the game. Only to find out the following day, that Tom's place where Hangman was, had been deleted. The hunters, of course, thought that Hangman was deleted alongside the rest of the game. Despite this, there have been many users who reported seeing Hangman roaming in other experiences. So remember, dear viewer, some questions are better left unanswered. I have stated how there's barely any info on Hangman, however the next myth I will talk about has somehow even less information about them. Being in my opinion, one of the most creative myths out there, and even being related with an user we will talk later, Larsbar is an interesting individual nonetheless. He joined Roblox on February 4, 2017. Shortly after joining, like if he had already knew what he wanted to do before joining, Larsbar posted a decal which was a screenshot of his incoming game, Larsbar. During the following years, Lars' mysterious bar would start to gain the attention of many players, and not exactly for being an excellent bar. Many reported that the Bartman attending the place was extremely short-tempered, and tended to have many arguments with many of the players who joined his game. However, it weren't the constant fights what disturbed the customers, but the way the Bartman would react in these situations. Many reported the Bartman would tell the person he was fighting with where they lived, their real name, their family members, and even their cell phone. And it doesn't end here, because there have been many reports of players who have gone missing, all of them shortly after having a discussion with Lars_bar. Unlike many other hackers, he didn't need to look for praise, because they would always be the ones looking for him, entering his game. The situation escalated to a point where Lars_bar would threaten with death and steal the address and info of whoever dared to enter his game, not caring if the player had even broken the rules. If you entered his game, your life was in danger. Finally, his game was updated for the last time on May 12, 2019. The bar lost its color and became monochromatic, and more important, after that update Larsbar never came back. He left Roblox as quick as he joined back in 2017. His bar is still on the site and can be played, however since Lars_bar is gone, there's not much to do in there. It has been quite difficult for me to find myths for this list, and not because I couldn't find any, but because most of them are just not interesting or scary enough for me to consider them. I'm aware this is just my opinion, but I really prefer myths whose story can be somewhat believable. During my investigation across these now forgotten pages, I have found many myths with obviously fake stories, such as a girl who died and went to hell to make a deal with the devil, in which now she has to eat men in order to get a special tea to survive.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
It's crystal clear this lady, nor the user behind the account, went to hell and met the freaking devil. And because the story is fake, I can't be afraid of this user. The myths that I really like are those whose story, even if it's not true, or even if they have a few fantastic events on it, could have maybe happened. For example, Larsbar has a unique story which features a few fantastic elements, such as Lars being able to track down anyone who enters his game. Despite this, his story still follows a realistic tone. Because the idea of an extremely dangerous hacker who has his own bar is way more believable than a fucking tea lover who met the devil, the following myth doesn't even have a real story behind him, but because his popularity and his actions, I've decided to put him in here. Dr. March joined Roblox in late 2015, and shortly after he would create his own query. There is next to nothing of information about the early days of Dr. March. A few non-confirmed testimonials of his patients say that Dr. March would start his sessions like any other normal therapy. But then, when deeper into the session, Dr. March would start asking more and more strange questions. These questions could be, for example, asking the patient where they lived, or asking them for their real name. Even if this was just the doctor's sick sense of humor, these questions gained him many reports, so many, that the good doctor decided to close his query and simply leave. Many thought this would be the last time anyone heard about Dr. March, but little they did know, he was just getting started. Dr. March began to gain recognition in the myth community. He befriended many of the most famous myths, such as Gaz the Clown. and even appeared in a few of Flamingo's videos.
Oh, hey, this is actually a lot less scary than I anticipated. Hey, buddy, let me actually, excuse the chairs. Beautiful. This is like I didn't put them there. Then who did? There's nothing anywhere. Is there a volume? Why is this place? He did! What? Why is this place?
This, of course, made him one of the most popular myths in the entirety of the Roblox community. He created a new game called The Doctor's Grief, and even got himself some assistants to help him. And despite the golden era of myths reaching an end, he never retired as a myth. He simply tended to go inactive for random periods of time then and again. Dr. March was also known for his rebellious attitude towards the myth hunters, since in the game Myth Container Facility, he tended to cause struggles, locking cells open, and even creating groups of rebels to fight the hunters. Dr. March is, or was, a very well-beloved member of the myth community. Even Gaz the Clown, during an Easter event that took place in the circus in the sky where the player had to search for eggs, made a reference to the good doctor. Despite being second in my ranking, the following myth is, in my opinion, the greatest myth to have ever been created in the Roblox community, and of course, my personal favorite. And the only reason of why he didn't rank first, is due to the influence the number one spot had. Bobby's here, may be the strangest user in the entire Roblox site. Nothing is known about his personal information, and the only confirmed user he ever shared a relation with was Larsbar, being his only friend. Bobby created his account the 15th of December, 2016. It was told that in every game Bobby went, he always acted strangely. Many claimed that when Bobby was in their server, he tended to write things in chat that would freak them out, things usually related with death, or the devil. Bobby used a very ambiguous language, and would state things such as that life was about suffering and then dying, or that it's nice to hate someone. Bobby's attitude started to make him known around the community. Many users claiming that the owner of the account was a real psychopath, and that he had already killed people. And all of a sudden, without warning, Bobby made a game called Memories. In his game, you spawn in an island in the middle of a white void, and from here, you have to unlock new islands to slowly make the map bigger and bigger. To do so, you have to touch invisible switches, and once you do, a new location will spawn. The game Memories tells the story of Bobby's here. However, due to the ambiguous nature of the game, to this day no one has been able of discovering the real story of Bobby. The reason of why, is because it's believed only someone who thinks in the same way Bobby does, will understand the game. Remember, fellow viewer, that players thought Bobby was a psychopath, or at least someone with strong mental issues. So only someone with the same mental problems, or another psychopath, could be able of understanding what Bobby is trying to explain us with his game. According to some who have tried to understand Bobby's game, he suffers from post-traumatic stress. This may be due to the abuse of their parents, or the death of a friend. According to few of the last players who met Bobby, he seemed to be lost. He didn't use grammar, which was very unlikely of him, and he kept asking, "Where am I?" That there's only one thing which is truly believed by the community about the game, Memories. And that's the end of the game. The end of the game takes place in an island which is not connected directly to the others, but only can be reached through a portal. This island has an empty house, what it seems to be a family house. And next to the bedroom of what it seems to be the child, there's a weapon. With all of this, many started elaborating theories about Bobby's story or fate. Now I'll tell you the most believed one I could find. According to the theory, Bobby was a child who lived his entire life being abused by their family, and of course, this not only affected his mental state, but also his social skills, which made him unable of making any friends. Bobby only had himself, and inside the game the many figures around the place would be Bobby's made-up friends, trying to make him feel less lonely, but still, they are not real, they don't even have a face. But one day all changed, the day Bobby snapped. after many years of suffering due to his parents, he decided that now he would be the one making them suffer. So he grabbed a weapon and ended their lives. An interesting detail of Memories is that Larsbar can be found inside. I believe by the music alone everyone knows who is the #1 spot in my ranking, so I won't try to hide it. It's really obvious why Gaz the Clown had to be in here. Hell, if you watched my last video, you'll remember I mentioned this clowny guy was originally going to be the #1 spot on that ranking, but because I found out about the Kazdom drama, and not putting Gaz on #1 was a crime, I decided I would wait for the second part in order to give Gaz the spot he truly deserved. Gaz is easily the most famous myth to have ever been created on Roblox, being usually the user who best represents the myth community. Also being one of the oldest myths, he joined Roblox the 10th of August, 2012. And it wouldn't take long for the players of that time to discover the clown. During the second half of 2012, Roblox hackers and mysteries started to be a recurring topic inside the platform. If you are in knowledge of Roblox's history, you'll know that in the 1st of April of that same year, one of the biggest hacking events of Roblox took place, the April Fool's incident. This hacking incident shocked the entire community, to the point that the theme of hackers and mysterious users started to gain tons of popularity. Gaz was one of the mysterious users who attracted the users' attention. According to the legend, there was a mysterious clown roaming around Roblox, who would always talk in weird ways and act very strangely, asking other players to visit his game, and upon doing so, the players would find what seemed to be an abandoned town full of statues. According to the players who visited his game, the statues were none other than other players who followed Gaz into his game, all of them dying in terrible ways. Then Gaz would create a new statue, this time matching the appearance of the new visitor, and after finishing the statue and making sure both Gaz and the player were alone, Gaz would attack the player, making him disappear from Roblox, leaving as the only evidence of the existence of his victim, the statue, which would serve nothing more than decoration purpose. The creepy clown started to gain recognition back then, and according to players of that time, Gaz would state many times that he just was an hematologist, a doctor who studies blood. It was during this early era that Gaz would hire Caroline and Clinton as his assistants. Looking forward, expanding his empire, our favorite red-nosed user decided to open what it is today. His most famous game, the Circus in the Sky. This place served as a circus where many players and hunters had the chance to meet and even interact with many different myths. However, what would make this place an absolute success would be, of course, Flamingo, who made many videos visiting this place. During its peak of popularity on 2018, the Circus in the Sky was the #1 myth place. Not only myths, but also hunters would visit this game to have a nice time. The official of the Circus in the Sky crew is conformed by Caroline, Clinton, Yucko, Albert himself, Caden, Snootsy, Sigillaria, Emmanuel, Spinnerit, and many more other myths who retire, like for example, Morgen. Gaz the Clown by 2018 already had achieved the title of the most famous myth to ever exist, since not only he was a pioneer, but also the founder of the most successful myth game during the golden era of these. And even having a YouTube channel with 106,000 subscribers, becoming the myth with the most successful YouTube channel. However, despite how well everything was going, the good times ended, and the trend of myths gradually declined. Not because people weren't interested in myths anymore, but because many famous myths and hunters simply left the community. Despite this, the myth community, even if it was way less popular than during its golden era, still had tons of fans and followers. But in the end, even if it was one of the biggest communities in the entire platform, it only took one evil man to finish the murder. This disgusting human being you are looking at was one of the most important individuals of the myth community. His attitude and his doings caused the departure of many important members of the community, and also was the main reason of why Albert, the YouTuber who made the myth trend as popular as it was, decided to stop doing myth-related videos.
Hundreds of different myth, mystery, Roblox accounts type videos. I don't really do them anymore because, yeah, Kazdom, apparently he was running a lot of the myth accounts that I was like, that I like the storylines of, and I mean, their description says it all. He had illegal interactions with members of the community. That kind of ruined it for me.
Gaz is probably one of the biggest victims in this situation, since he never did anything wrong, and yet, because of someone else's crimes, his trend died. The last time we saw Gaz the Clown was in a YouTube video posted on his channel the 1st of October, 2020. The video, ironically, was made to explain his then 4 months absence, that would turn 2 years eventually. He also mentioned that he was working in a comic about his myth. Sadly, we never had news since that day. Gaz the Clown may not be there anymore, but even if the myth trend is not remembered very well because of some disgusting individuals, that doesn't take away the good this clowny man did for many. And despite being discovered as a psycho killer clown, he will be remembered as the greatest myth to have ever existed on Roblox. He simply couldn't be nothing but number one.